You are live.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Community Unity with Coach Carter. Today, my guest is China Kennedy, which is my oldest child. And I want to thank you guys for um, holding on for a couple of minutes. We started a little late today, but we are here talking about our relationship. Me as a mom raising a transgender child and really going through that process of learning as I go. So I want to thank y'all for joining us on Believe Radio, Bay Area, 24-hour gospel listening station. And we appreciate everyone who's listening on today. So, welcome. Thank you for coming on to my show.
No problem. I'm
Yeah,
happy to be a guest.
yeah. So I just want to just jump into the conversation. So there's no etiquette because most of the people who watch and know I just talk and have conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people are curious about our relationship and how things have gotten to where they are now that you have fully transitioned into womanhood.
Right.
So during that process, somebody asked me how was it for me, how did I feel about it, and I told them it was a long journey, but once you became confident and that's who you were, then it became much easier.
Easier
I
for you to
think
do.
the
Yeah.
struggle was you knowing you were different. There was something different about you, but not being able to really verbalize that is where really a lot of the friction came in. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I go by China. I'm from Oakland. Uh, I'm 35. I've been just transitioning since I was little, but I've fully transitioned within a few last few months.
Hmm.
I've moved back from Vegas in January, and I've already had two surgeries done, recovered fully,
Hmm.
and just still trying to get used to everything. But I don't know, it's all new, but it's regular. I'm just me and trying to figure out what I want to do in the LGBTQ
Community.
community.
So at let me ask, at what age, like when did you start feeling like I don't want to?
I wasn't a boy.
Yeah,
I'm a boy, but I don't feel
right.
like I'm a boy.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that because I think a lot of times people always say people wasn't born like this or that's something, or they feel like somebody had to be molested or something happened to them to for that to them to have that mindset. And
Mhm.
I know since you were like two,
Yeah,
like a little bitty kid, you always have been like infatuated with mama, that's cute, and let me hold your purse or stuff like that since a little kid. So
right.
I didn't know what that was. So talk a little bit about that from a perspective of people who kids are dealing with that and they don't know, and the kids really don't know how to verbalize it.
Right.
Hmm.
I think I was like probably from what I can remember, I had to be like 5 or 6 when
Hmm.
I really start understanding that I didn't identify to myself as being a boy,
Hmm.
like at school,
Hmm.
um, just looking in the mirror and just like more connecting more with girl stuff,
Hmm.
girls and Barbie dolls and stuff like that. Before I even was attracted to boys or girls, I felt like I was a boy, but I wanted to be a girl.
Hmm.
So I was just always like, I don't know. It started at 5 or 6, and I just felt like I was different, but it was like a battle because I wasn't sure what I was going through.
Hmm.
And at that particular time, of course, you wasn't open to it because I was
Hmm.
littler. So it was just like, where's my outlet? Like, how do I figure out, what I'm going through, or if other people was going through this stuff? So I think it had to be like 5 or 6 because that's when I start. That's when my memory go back
Hmm.
as far as that. And from that early on, I knew I didn't want to be a boy. I wasn't comfortable being with a boy. I wasn't comfortable being a boy. I didn't want to play with boy stuff. I did like boy clothes.
Hmm.
So anything that I can get my hands on, far as being my girl self coming out. but it wasn't at home, it was at school. When I started being able to tap into that
Mm-hmm.
and be comfortable with it. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
at home, it was at school and around my peers and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But yeah, it had to be like 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's when my stuff was coming up missing, and you was sneaking it
Yeah,
to
your
school.
clothes, and you was finding out through friends and stuff that was over poo poo be trying on your clothes and poo poo playing with dogs and all that
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff. But sure, at that point, you was how young was you?
Yeah, I
You
was
was
like
young.
20,
Yeah, your
21.
middle
Yeah.
20s and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. So it was hard for you to figure that out because you're like, what's going on and all that. But yeah,
And it was really stressful for me because not understanding what that was because growing up you just figured somebody was gay,
hmm
so
that's the
that
first
was
thing you think.
yeah, that wasn't either. So my thing is, okay, so what happened? Who touched you? And why is
Yeah,
you doing this? Like it was something mentally, and I feel then I was more mentally abusive
yeah.
because I didn't understand. So the more people was calling me, I
Mhm.
seen Poo Poo. She was showing somebody a bra in school, had on a bra. Poo Poo had
Eyeliner.
eyeliner and different
Mhm.
stuff. And then I'm coming home and I'm stressed out. Like, okay, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and the school calling, and you having fights behind it.
Right.
So
Telling people at the schools I was a girl, even
yes,
that early. Like,
yeah.
oh, I really was born a girl and my mom wanted me to be a boy, made up this story. So even when I run into people I was like going to school with, they used to be like, you used to tell everybody you was a girl when you was younger. So
Hmm.
we glad to see that you really who you always felt like you was, like that early on. So people be having a misconception,
Hmm.
misconstrued over like with they kids. Is just at least you didn't beat it out of me because I know
Right.
I'd heard a lot of stories to where
Hmm.
kids was beat by their parents because they was dealing with stuff like
Hmm.
that. But you, it was like you said, it was more verbal.
Hmm.
Why are you like this?
Hmm.
Like, did anybody molest you and stuff like that? And as your child, I thank you for asking me stuff like
Hmm.
that because that early on we would have identified stuff like that if
Hmm.
that was the case.
Right.
But it wasn't. I was never molested. And technically, most of the family felt like I had to be born the way I was because y'all identified it too early on.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand because it's not something that you made up.
Right,
That's who you were.
right.
So once we realized that's who you were, then it became that protective mechanism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because I don't care, you ain't gonna be talking about my child or whatever. And then I
right.
remember one day I told you, you had on some eyelashes, your hair was looking crazy and some. And I
hmm
said, if this is what you gonna do, you ain't gonna be no hood rat in it.
right. You gonna do
So,
it right. So you need to figure out
yeah,
what is you trying to do.
right.
Because it was never just gay. That's what a lot of people, well, were you gay at first and all that? I didn't even know what gay was
Mhm,
because technically gay is the same sex
mhm,
dealing with the same sex. But that was before I was even attracted to boys. I
mhm,
always still felt like I was born in the wrong body. I look at the girls like I want to be them and I want to have hair. And so it was just a confused thing for so long. But I always knew what I wanted to do. It was just like now that I'm this far, it's always been a, like something like, okay, what do I do next? How do I
mhm,
come into this? How do I come into that? So it was just and getting comfortable with myself too at that point because I always had a lot of people that was trying to understand what I was doing or
mhm.
where all of this stuff was coming from. So it was a lot of stuff that I was dealing with as a child. That's what I was
Right.
telling the lady at the hospital. I was like, I'm dealing with major stuff and I'm 7 and 8 years old because
Mhm,
people back then it wasn't accepting as it is. So a lot of it, I always felt like I was doing something wrong,
mhm,
like I wasn't supposed to be doing.
mhm.
So dealing with that for so many years, that within itself is a lot of trauma because I felt like back then I probably needed counseling or somebody to talk to be comfortable with opening up.
And I was gonna say because that when I was finna go into the mental health piece of it, because by the time you was 12, then that's when your criminal
Yeah,
behavior
right.
started. So now that I look back at it, it was like because you had nowhere to direct the
Exactly.
thoughts that you were dealing with
Dealing with
and the
it.
confusion, and you really couldn't identify with nobody who you felt comfortable talking to it about. That's when you became obsessed with cars.
Right. And as
So talk
you
about that.
and as a little bit you missed a little bit
Okay.
as as your kids, we kind of felt like you wasn't attached to us, but
Hmm.
you were very attached to us. You was
Right.
very overprotective of all of us. That's
Hmm.
why everybody knew not to step in and try
Hmm.
to be like, well, Nina don't understand, so let us try to figure out,
Hmm.
because everybody know you had your foot down about your kids. You
Hmm.
didn't play about us, and you know we were kids, we were raised right, so all of that other stuff don't even open up the door, for my
Right.
kid, don't even entertain that,
Hmm.
which in a way that was good because you was honest
Hmm.
as our mothers, as you are a mother, you're supposed to be. But like you said, I didn't have no outlet. I didn't have
Hmm.
nobody to turn to because everybody was intimidated by you. And we don't even want to try to step in and figure out what's going on because we know how Nina is. So yeah, I think that's why I started getting into a lot of trouble because we was in Modesto. Remember, I was in
Hmm.
middle school then. I had to be like what, probably like 13,
Hmm.
14. I was doing the house parties.
Hmm.
You was gone a lot.
Hmm.
We had a lot of friends over, and I was just like a girl.
Right.
Javon even do like
Right.
all of that time. Like this girl stuff was gonna come out some way somehow.
Hmm.
Whenever mom ain't around, because I want to hear her mouth. But yeah, then I started getting into trouble with the cars. I wanted to drive hecka bad. Caught my first case in Modesto,
Yeah.
remember? And you were so fed up with just me, period, because it was always me.
Right.
But I think that's because I was going through all of
Hmm.
that stuff mentally as a child and wanting to be who I really want to be, or trying to even explain that, but I
Hmm.
didn't have no way to. So I was like, okay, cars and being disrespectful and not
Hmm.
listening to you, and
Hmm.
it just turned into me getting into trouble because I didn't know what else to do or
And
how to.
that's good that you brought that up because that's even with kids who not transitioning into LGB or transgender.
Transitioning in general.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just that when they don't know how to direct that energy, then that's when the criminal behavior starts, and a lot
Right,
of people condemn them
right,
for the actions, the outer expression. Like yours was stealing cars,
right,
but in reality, it was a cry for help.
right.
So if I'm stealing cars, if I get in trouble, maybe somebody
But yeah,
really identified,
right.
because I remember the first time I had to put you in a mental institution.
Yeah,
That was one of the hardest things for me because I'm like, either I'm finna go to jail for killing him back then, or I'm, because my thing was, oh no, I had a son because you're disrespecting me as a mother.
yeah. And
I
I
had
had
a
two
son.
brothers under
Yeah.
me
And
at that
everybody
time.
was doing sports and everything, and
Hmm.
you could never find where you fit.
What I was
It
doing.
wasn't like somebody was gonna make you because
Right,
that wasn't who you was.
right.
But that's not understanding. And me, like I say, back then when I look back, I was just like, wait a minute, I'm out here hustling, I'm doing this, I'm
Right.
doing
We
whatever.
didn't have to really
Then
want for much.
yeah, so
So
but this something I can't fix.
yeah,
So because I couldn't fix it, then I fought against it. So
right.
that's when the verbal abuse came, and that's when you was being defiant because
Hmm.
you confused and don't understand what's going on. I'm confused, don't
Understand
understand
what's going
what's
on.
going on. So we
Yeah,
was butting heads like this.
right,
So I remember trying to reach out and talk to people, and and it was more so than focusing on your criminal
right.
behavior than that being, the
Yeah,
root of the
yeah, the
issue.
issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I was a lot of times we look at the outer expression, not really identify with the inner conflict. Even when I remember what made me have to transition in my life when you caught that case and you went to court for was that checks or
that
what's
was the
that?
fraudulent case I
Okay,
had.
fraudulent.
Because
And
I caught it in Modesto, but remember you was just moving. We was fresh in Antioch, so
uh-huh,
they transferred my case to Contra Costa, and that's
uh-huh,
when we was going to Grace, and we had the pastor and all of them was at church, and they prayed, and
uh-huh,
instead of me going to jail because my charges was so severe, all
right.
them fraudulent charges I had,
Mhm.
I ended up doing the ankle monitor. Remember, I was
Mhm.
on ankle monitor for like 3 months, but I think that was grace. Like we had came together so
Mhm.
heavy in the prayer and the
Right.
pastor and the
Mhm.
letters and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was hard because I was still dealing with this stuff, my
Right.
trans stuff, along with now I got felonies and stuff as a
And
juvenile and fraudulent charges.
then you caught another
Another
violation because you
yes,
trying to knowing that that's how you felt, but still trying to prove
yeah,
that you can be a boy. And then remember you cut the thing off to
cut
take
the ankle monitor
mahogany to
off.
the prom or
Yeah, we
something.
went to prom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then that's what when we went to court and the judge was like, she read my history.
Yeah.
When she said,
What's going on with the mama?
yeah, she said, because you got all this, you got to pass with the ankle monitor, but now you got all this stuff. And she said, oh, yeah. And it came from you because you went to jail for checks. That was my first and only time going to jail. You went to jail for fraudulence, so you done taught her how to do this. Like I handed down that to you.
And I remember that.
Yeah, and that when she said that to me, that's when a light bulb went on in my head that kids don't do as you say, they do as you do.
Yeah.
Because you was the only one that knew that, and I'm thinking I'm hiding it because I didn't do it.
Because you always tried to hide that type of lifestyle from us. We didn't really know what was going on, but me being advanced and grown, I knew what was going on.
Right.
But you wasn't no mother to where we was in your business.
Right.
With whatever you was doing as an adult, you tried to keep all of that stuff away from.
Yeah. So when it happened,
say that, like, what you talking
yeah, but it made
kids don't be doing.
Yeah, I didn't think, but like you said, you were advanced, and not only that. A lot of people, the reason I was so protected, because a lot of people who were around me tried to use you against me. Mm-hmm. So they'll try to slide up on, I understand, poo-poo, all that to get information to use against me. So that's what made me more protective. But when she said that to me, I was like, oh, wow. I'm thinking I'm hiding this and that. And then when you caught the case, I'm like, how you even knew that? Yeah, how did you know that?
Right. And then it was out of your hands because remember, my probation officer gave me the 6 months. Yes. I had to go to Byron. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I ever did that much time. Mm-hmm. But all of this is as a juvenile. Then I got out when I was 18. I got my license and stuff within like that first month I got out, and I started getting on track. Did to make a baby shower. She was like 8 months pregnant with Maya. Then I started getting on track. But
remember, you did that cooking class in there and was working at the convalescent home.
Yeah, I was working at the Pittsburgh Care Center. I did that for like 2 years. Then I had finally got my own apartment. So I think that's
when you turned 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, I'm like, we finna find your apartment and you finna live your best life up out of here.
And that's what I think the light switch went on to where it was like, okay, now I'm at my mama's house. Now I could be focused on what I really want to do because you wasn't on board then. You didn't get on board until like a couple years ago. So that's why I be wanting people to understand. Like I tell a lot of people that's younger and that's like, oh, my family is so against it and my mom and them and they're disowning me and they don't want to have nothing to do with me. First of all, you got to figure out what you want to do. Think it through long and hard. And once people understand your mind is made up and that's what you want to do, the love they have for you would eventually get them on board to where they'll come around. Because that's what happened with you. Once you saw that it was something that wasn't going to change, I guess the love you have for me as a mother, you was just like, that's my child and I'm on board.
Right.
So some things can turn around because as a child, I was so traumatized, like, oh my gosh, my mom is never going to, accept me and support me. And you the one took me to the hospital when I had my bottom surgery, and that was hard for you because I could just hear it in your voice and everything. Like, what is my child doing? But oh well, I just gotta just hope for the best and pray because you grabbed my hands and we prayed before I went down that hallway and I was like, oh, my mom is a nervous wreck. I hope she be okay. I'm your child. You had me. So it's not only my journey. That's what I was just telling my friend on the phone, my boyfriend I talked to. I said, my mama have a right to just as much of an opinion as I have because she had me and she went through this journey with me. She birthed me. I'm her firstborn. So anything that she say or feel about it, I listen because it's both of our journeys. It's me that's living through this, but it's also her. She's a big part of what happened. And sometimes you probably blamed yourself. What did I do wrong? What happened when I was pregnant or when I was raising him to make him turn out this way? But people got to understand we gonna be who we are.
And that's why I wanted you to come home because some people never understand it or they'll never get it because they live so much on this religion that is the ultimate sin. So a lot of people would disown their kids and everything else because they're trying to be faithful to the church. But your ministry is in the house first.
Right.
So the church couldn't tell me nothing about my kids. That's like when Malik started rapping. Oh, you're going to support him and he's a rapper? Of course, I'm going to support my kids regardless.
Right.
And I think that's what people fail to realize that God's love is for everybody.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
and he don't pick and choose who he gonna love based on the lifestyle that they choose.
Exactly.
So a lot of times we have, when children are now being more comfortable with coming out, it's those secret family members that's talking behind their back and getting the conversations out and talking against family, and then it's the friends,
Right.
that's when the mom is already trying to figure out my child is,
Yeah, you
and
got so
then
much of an opinion from all these other people.
yeah,
So what
yeah.
you gonna do about this and what you
Hmm.
gonna do about that? Yeah. So I don't know, but my relationship with God never changed based on nothing that I've done today. I have no regrets, no
Hmm.
regrets, and I'm so thankful for that.
Hmm.
But I kind of knew it. My mind was made
Hmm.
up. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have never did this.
Hmm.
But God played a big part in this. Like
Hmm.
I prayed before my surgeries. I prayed before anything. God, if this ain't your will, and if I'm gonna be devastated for the
Hmm.
rest of my life doing something that I probably shouldn't be doing, then
Hmm.
don't allow me to do it. So
Hmm.
a lot of the time, you got to keep God involved in everything you're doing,
Hmm.
even stuff that you may feel like you shouldn't be doing.
Hmm.
Put God in it because
Hmm.
if it ain't supposed to be done, then He ain't gonna do it. He gonna deteriorate you from it. That's what the lady kept asking me after my surgery when I was in the hospital provider. She was like, just your conversation and your boldness, and
Hmm.
how are you just so confident in this? I said, well, God,
Yeah.
because I pray every day. I'm a very religious person,
Hmm.
and I'm glad I learned that from my mama.
Hmm.
Like early on, seeing her in the church and her testimony about specific stuff that happened in her life that had God had to have something to
Hmm.
do with it. I grew from that, and I started evaluating my life and myself. So it don't matter what you're doing in life, as long as God in it.
Hmm.
He's a forgiving God. He loves us all. So
Hmm.
that's how I got through a lot of my stuff with God praying.
Yeah.
God, if this ain't what I'm supposed to be doing, then don't let me do it.
But the and it's the more you pray, the more you pray, the more you seek in Him. It's the more that relationship
Yeah,
become, and you start seeing God as your Father. That's why I
right,
tell people you don't know how somebody is tapping into God. Just because
yeah,
you do it one way, or they not doing it verbally, or you feel like what they doing is not of God,
right.
don't mean they don't know
Don't
God.
know exactly,
Yeah. So
exactly.
and I
Ooh, right. You just said it right because that's what people be looking at. Because all these church people live in these church lifestyles, but really ain't.
Mhm.
They in the church talking about people, making people feel uncomfortable. They doing all of the stuff that ain't of God because it's they don't judge.
Mhm.
So if anything, if you feel this strongly about somebody, then what is you doing to help this person figure it out or
Mhm.
to pour into this person? If
Mhm.
you so guarded on, ooh, this ain't supposed to be that, and
Mhm.
it ain't supposed to be that. So a lot of them church people that be so churchy don't really be as churchy as they put
Mhm.
out put out to be. That's
Right.
why I'm not scared of the church. I'm not intimidated. I go into church with my head held high. I've been into the church. Them people don't intimidate me because
Mhm.
I'm here for one purpose and one purpose only, and
Mhm.
that's to get the sermon, to pray with y'all in fellowship.
Mhm.
However you feel about me personally is neither
It's
here nor
your
there. That's
yeah.
your personal experience.
And I
But
think a lot of people struggle in that area because they don't have that Holy Ghost boldness, because that's what it is. So they want to put on this facade, like because I know scripture, or
mhm,
because I got a title in the ministry, that I'm better,
better,
or I have a certain level of authority to shut you down
right?
because you're not doing. And a lot of people use the Bible out of they don't even use the scripture in its right intent. They
Right.
make it fit what they wanted to
Wanted to
say,
make sense.
So a lot of times that's why a lot of people can't grow in ministry, because we preaching with the wrong motive. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because it's
Right.
the word that brings change. It's the word that brings conviction, but we too busy condemning people
Condemning people.
because our life is tacky.
Right.
I have a child that's transgender, but what about your child that's out here killing and shooting people
Right.
and
Or
robbing?
got six baby mamas with
Yeah,
six different baby mamas.
and not
So
married.
yeah.
Nobody looks at that as, but you at court,
Mhm.
calling everybody to bail him or her out of jail. So you don't see nothing wrong in that situation. But then when you support a child based on lifestyle, then it's this big old, the ultimate sin. So that's where a lot of times, even when, because I make sure I bring you up in conversations on purpose, because a certain reaction, then that show me a certain level of maturity spiritually when
Yeah.
I deal with people. So then it make me side on him, like, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? Because what I'm not gonna do is put my child on the back burner to come in the building.
Right.
Because I'm the church. Wherever I show up, the characteristics of Christ show up in me. And a lot of times people don't understand that. So they'll make so one of those type, and then I'll be okay. So I already know where to place you. Because
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, proper people positioning eliminates problems. So
Right.
if you have a problem with my child, then you have an internal problem with
With
me.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
regardless, because that your life is like I told you, that's between you and God.
Yeah.
My thing is to love.
Hmm. Why I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. Because when God asked me, what did I do with that? With your situation, I prayed about it and I love him.
Right.
And that's all I can do
That's
as
all we
your
can.
mother. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It ain't my job to be influenced by what the world think or what they say. That ain't my job. That's your opinion. But what you can do is stay away because it's gonna be problems.
Yeah.
It's going to be problems because you're not going to traumatize my child.
Right.
You're not going to talk to them about her to me. Ain't none of
Hmm.
that going to happen. And I
Right.
think a lot of people have to learn how to take a stand for their children, whether you like it or not. You have to because God entrusted us with these kids. We're a vessel that
Right.
He entrusted to get y'all to earth.
Right.
Whatever His purpose and plan is, that's His.
Hmm.
So our job is to seek Him and be yielded to His leading and teaching.
Right.
And your process made me grow up and be more open minded.
Right. And I
And,
think how you
mhm,
are, a lot of your personality and your boldness rubbed off in most of us, all four of us, because
mhm,
we, whether like Javon, Malik with his rapping, whatever we doing, we're bold in it. Can't
mhm,
nobody really affect us or
mhm,
make us feel no type of way because we come from a strong opinionated mother.
mhm,
So a lot of times I don't be worried about what people doing or saying or
mhm,
got going on. I'm worried about myself, and I'm
mhm.
just here to, you know, help or whatever I got to do. But I ain't gonna bow down or bug down, none of that type of stuff. I'm bold in all areas. That's why the lady kept. She was just looking at me like, "Oh my gosh!" Like you just and you know the stuff to say. You need to do a podcast, and there's just so many people that will look up to you and. People do this surgery and they're just devastated and they don't have no support. She like every time I come in here, you telling somebody to call you back and
Mhm,
you just got all of this love and
mhm,
support. I said because most of my family knew how
mhm,
I was. I just never took the steps to be
mhm.
how I felt like I wanted to look or be, but it's not a surprise to people.
And I
Everybody
think, and
knew
I
early
think
on.
that's the bare minimum of who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just one portion of
One
who you
portion.
are.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
people don't know your level of integrity. They don't know your character. They don't know your heart.
Right.
Because they don't get to see that because they let that.
They so busy worried about that.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
do you
So
want to
that
talk about some other stuff?
right.
Yeah,
So
I'm
they
really worried
yeah,
about
they
that.
don't get to see you in this form.
Hmm.
So they wouldn't even think you knew how to talk. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
exactly.
They think you just get dressed up and be on Instagram taking pictures and
Yeah, and
but
worried about how I look, but
yeah.
it's much deeper than that.
So
Yeah.
how do you feel God gonna use you? Because I know we was talking about Transbrella, Transbella, which is your organization that you're starting to prevent kids from having to struggle in
Mhm.
these areas by themselves. So
I
I
don't know. It's so much in that. It's like,
mhm,
oh Lord, it's just like I got a million and one questions and I got a million and one answers when it
mhm,
just comes to trans because the first thing that comes to my mind is the suicide rate.
mhm,
Even as a child growing up and not having your support or
mhm,
not really having nobody's support, I never I never got pushed to a point to where I wanted to commit suicide. I
mhm,
never even gave suicide thought.
mhm,
So it's like that's a big thing that stands out to me, and I'd be wanting to talk to a lot of younger ones to figure out how did it get to that point. Like
mhm,
it's to the point to where you feel like you don't want to be here no more. You want to kill yourself, but then again, you can kind of visualize somebody who's lost and by themselves. They don't have the support.
mhm.
Their family in them is disowning them, and they don't want to have nothing to do with them because of that, and that can make you feel like you want to commit suicide. So, just the suicide rate, it's a lot of younger ones who don't have support.
Mhm.
Like even with my surgeries and like my whole journey, it was hard. Like
Mhm.
it was so many times where I was like, well, maybe I don't need to do this. Like
Mhm.
just with the counseling that you got to do to get these surgeries, the mental health. They want to make sure people is
Mhm.
mentally stable. Like, why do you feel like this? I didn't have to relive my childhood, and
Mhm.
it's just so much stuff. And I feel like it's not easy. It's
Mhm.
too many different hoops you got to go through. It's not enough support out there in the LGBTQ community to help people like me, especially the black people, the
Mhm.
colored people, figure out what we want to do. Is this the right way, the
Mhm.
avenue? And you do X, Y, Z. It's just been a struggle to get to where I am right now. That's why every day I be thanking God because I'm like, this stuff really happened and it wasn't even as hard as I thought it was. But
Mhm.
the counseling, the mental health, the resources on who to turn to from
Mhm.
this, and just always having somebody there to for us to turn
Like a
to.
one
It's
eight
just
hundred
yeah, like a
number.
1-800 line and all that type of stuff. And then they be like, they got this and they got that, but no,
It
it's
don't
not how
fit.
it needs to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Yeah,
And when we were looking up like organizations to kind of like mimic something we could do off of,
it's not
is
enough.
not structured for the trauma. And that's what people fail to realize. Trauma in Walnut Creek
Right,
and trauma in San Ramon and trauma in Danville is different from trauma in Oakland. You
right.
know what I'm saying? The things that we, even the training and the situations you done been in, people don't even know. You done been shot, you
Yeah,
done had carjacked, you know,
yes,
they
all type of stuff.
robbed. People don't even.
Still got the bullet hole right here, and I'd be like, "What in the world? Like my life, God? What do you want me to do? A movie,
Yes.
a book?" Because just different levels and different ways that stuff that happen, and it's been a long journey. But I know for sure I'm a big voice,
Hmm.
and I got a story and a testimony to tell a lot of the younger ones
Hmm.
that they can do it,
Hmm.
and that they can have the support. Like you looking at both of us, like
Hmm.
my mama wasn't on board. My mama was so against this. My
Hmm.
mama had a lot of stuff to say about
Right.
this. Like she really had to grow and come
Hmm.
around to this. But she the one who took me to the hospital to
Hmm.
do it. Like
Hmm.
she's been there with me throughout all of the stuff that I've been dealing with recently, all of these surgeries and just everything like that. So sometimes you gotta just hold on. Really, you gotta just pray and put it in God's hands because everything really, God got the final say. That's what
Right.
I
So
did with
what
my
would
life.
you say to parents
Mm.
who know their children are struggling with this, but then they still will make them um, portray an image to save face with people? So what would you say to those parents? Because
That
I was
part,
one of those parents.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
that part I don't get. To me, you just need to talk to your child, open up,
Mhm.
have a conversation about it. Not really just about like, did you get molested or how did you turn out this way, or
Mhm.
make it a comfortable situation to
Mhm.
where your child will want to open up to you. Because at the end of the day, y'all are our parents. We shouldn't have to open up to somebody outside the household or
Mhm.
our friends at school or different peers. Our parents should make it to where we comfortable enough to tell them why we feel the way we feel. I don't think you should just make your child. Basically, you want your child to live the life that you want them to live.
Mhm.
Because if you like, well, you're a boy and you want to be a girl, you're not doing that in my household
Mhm.
or and stuff like that. You're not letting them be who they
Mhm.
want to be.
Mhm.
It's just
You're not
mainly
even giving them a chance
you're
to
not even giving them a
transition
chance to
if it's
open up.
just one of
Yeah.
those things.
Just like with Dwayne
Mhm.
Wade, a lot of people don't agree with that because they feel like Zaya is too young for
Mhm.
him to be for him to let her express herself how
Mhm.
she's expressing herself. But then again, she's not because he got other kids, so he know it's something different with her specifically to where he letting her be who she want to be. I don't think it's an age group. When your
Yeah.
kids come to you and present, oh, daddy or mom, this is how I want to be, or this, you need to entertain that and figure
Mhm.
out what's going on with that. Not close the door and it's just off. Off the topic, it's not gonna happen because you're in my household and you this age. Because now your child got to be miserable, and they're gonna find
Mhm.
another outlet. It
Mhm.
ain't gonna be you. It's gonna either be somebody at school. Sometimes they get to messing with people way older than them. It's
Mhm.
a lot of different ways to figure out how to express yourself if your closest people is not on board with it. So,
And I think that's what people need to know, that regardless of how you feel about it, if that's a strong thing for them, they're going to create. And those are the unhealthy situations that a lot of kids find themselves in, and then at that point, it's too late,
Mm-hmm.
or now you devastated because really you're setting them up to be victimized.
Exactly.
Because the first place that predators look for is people without a support system and that are vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So when you don't give them that, even though I hated to talk about it, I also made sure people also knew that you better not say nothing about it. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
So you weren't out there as a victim. It was still consequences, even though I don't agree with it. It's
Right.
still consequences of how you handle my child.
Right.
So a lot of kids don't get that because the parents will talk about it with other people, and
Mm-hmm.
then they're talking about it to other people. Then it's blew up as, oh my God, this kid is struggling, and they have no support. So that get in
Right.
the ear of the wrong person. Down now, here come the predator.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Now they preying on this kid, and because that kid want a sense of freedom, they would accept living in a dysfunctional situation just not to be around that judgment.
Right.
So I think that's a dangerous place to put your kid in, and to me, it's a form of abuse.
Right.
So who was the first person you felt you could be comfortable with talking about it?
That's a good question. It wasn't an adult, but it was more like Kalisha when I
Mm-hmm.
was younger, because she was going through the same stuff with Beverly. Only
Mm-hmm.
she a girl, but she, from how I could see it, always wanted to be a boy,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was the boy that wanted to be a girl. So I was able to express myself more with her, and then I think Tamika too. That's why I always tell Tamika, like with me getting custody of Makai from her, it's like, shoot, Mama got to realize you raised me a lot of the time
Mm-hmm.
too, because I was at your house,
Right.
and when Mama didn't want to deal with a lot of the stuff, not that Tamika was open to it, but
Mm-hmm.
Tamika didn't have a problem with me being who I was. It was
Mm-hmm.
like she knew how people was gonna be, but
Like the bigger sister.
yeah, like the
They
bigger
are.
sister,
They
she
always let you
supported
do.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of
Mm-hmm.
letting me be who I was gonna be. But I think I dealt with it a lot just on my own, and I figure my mind was always made up to what I was gonna do at the end of the day. So it didn't matter what support I had, who was on board, who wasn't on board. This is what's gonna make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I tell when I'm talking to a lot of trans that I feel like it's confused and all that. It's like you got to figure out what works for you
Mm-hmm.
and who are you doing this for. Like you got to sit in a room for a long time, and you may have to stare in a mirror for a couple of hours to figure out what's gonna work for you moving forward. Because you're you. How do you want to live the rest of your life? You know how
Mm-hmm.
you want to walk this earth. You gotta make it work for you, and then once you figure that out, everybody else will be on board. But you
Mm-hmm.
can't be confused. One day you want to do this, one day you want to do that. Especially with these surgeries, this is major stuff. It ain't no turning back from
Mm-hmm.
this. So I figure, like, since I was back to when I was 5 or 6, I always knew I wanted to be a girl, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be the best I can be at it. It ain't about trying to impress nobody, because a lot of trans stay with the outer appearance. They
Mm-hmm.
want to get the boobs done
Mm-hmm.
and they face, and they want to look their best. But it's like, is you doing this for a look and to
Mm-hmm.
get attention, or is you doing this because this is the person that you truly want to be?
Mm-hmm.
You seek being this person, and that's the part that messed stuff up. I was talking to Sam with that. The ones who are really on board and the ones who aren't. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a lot to talk about. That's why I want to start off with groups, just
Mm-hmm.
open groups. Like, what do y'all want to talk about? What do y'all want to touch on?
And
It's
that's
just
what
like
I
a
think a
lot of
lot of
work.
people know that their kids are struggling in this area, and they won't even allow them to experience those type of open formats so you can figure out, well,
Right.
maybe this was just an experience that I
Yeah.
thought, but
Yeah.
now I
I
really
really
don't
don't
want,
want
because
to
I
live this
remember a
life.
time in your life you was like, well, I'm one day I'm gonna have a husband and a child, you know what I'm saying, just to
Hmm.
say that because you was at that place,
Right.
but you still a woman and have a child,
Right.
but that was the right thing to say,
Exactly.
at a certain point in your life when you was confused. But shoot, we all knew.
Right.
Everybody knew, and that's why everybody respect you as who you are,
Or
because we never tried to dumb you down. And
right.
I think a lot when people try to dumb you down, people be like, girl, you already know. I don't even know why you playing trying to tell me,
Right.
that she finna, all these slumber parties, people, she
Mhm.
ain't dating nobody. Girl, they having a slumber party. Okay, but the girls is messing with each other doing the slumber. You got to be careful of those
That
sleepovers.
yeah, that
You
too.
have to be careful of a lot of stuff that we do as parents. And I'm like, who are you saving face for?
Right.
My biggest accomplishments come from my hardest struggles.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
don't get to live like I made a shirt that said, God chose me to expose me. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Because I'm chosen to live my life out open. I don't get to hide that my child is transgender. I
Right.
don't get to hide that one of my sons got a gun case. I
Yeah.
don't get to hide that
And
I'm
you always
struggling.
been like that.
I don't get that ain't how I was made.
Yeah.
And
That's why
people.
you touch a lot of people because you're open and they not used to that.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people ain't open and
Right.
they don't want to expose their demons and they
Right.
don't want to deal with their stuff.
Hmm.
But it's like, how do you expect to grow and be able to touch somebody else or help somebody else get out of a situation if you ain't fixing yourself?
Right.
And that's what I've seen from you throughout my whole life, growth.
Hmm.
Always trying to fix yourself, always trying to expose what the issue is to
Hmm.
fix the issue and then deal with the next one.
Right.
And I love that so much, and I thank God every day that you my mama, because I'm like little, and probably because I'm the daughter out of all your kids, but I'm the
Right.
one that learned so much from you, just
Hmm.
watching how you move, and it's
Hmm.
you've always been an open book, and
Hmm.
people love it because they can pour into that, and they
Right.
can try to become that. Okay, let me deal with my stuff. She able to
Hmm.
deal with her stuff with the
Right.
kids, with the husband, in any area, you got to be open to figure out the root of the problem
And
and
I
come through
and
the
I don't
process.
think you could heal. You can't heal from what you're not willing to expose.
Right,
Shoot, I was married to a serial cheater.
right.
My kids seen him cheating. How I'm gonna hide that?
And
Everybody
didn't
he
even
ma-
know that he was like that.
yeah, he
Like,
came in
wow.
as an imposter. But I'm
Right.
just saying, but going through that process, it created like y'all see, yeah,
Hmm.
how relationships don't always be what they intend to be.
Right.
So now y'all could pick and choose different when you have those, but coming trying to say all is well and it's good. No, it's bad.
Being
It's
fake.
bad.
Being fake. And
That
that's
fake
one
stuff.
thing you ain't never been.
Yeah.
Never,
Mhm.
ever been that fake stuff. So that helped me with my journey as far
Mhm.
as being trans and everything. I got to be real with myself. Like, I come from a mother who's really real. Like, I
Mhm.
can't sit in her face and lie and be wishy
Mhm.
washy. You like, make up your mind. What are you doing?
Right, because I can't
It,
support what you don't know. I
Mhm.
can't support what you don't know, and that's why I says, hey, so that's what we doing.
That's what we doing.
That's all I can say. I don't know what we're doing. So long as I don't know what we're doing, you confused, I'm confused. But
Right.
is this what we're doing? Is
Right.
this what we're doing? Let's do it.
That's why any trans I run into anybody, like, y'all need to be my mama so y'all can find out our story, how it worked for us.
Hmm.
Because if it worked for us, it could work for anybody.
Yeah.
It's just been a journey, and it's gonna continue to be a journey. But I just want to be a voice and be able to help people that's at that point, that
Hmm.
breaking point. Like,
Hmm.
no, no, don't do that. Like,
Don't break.
we can figure this out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What is that going on? Okay, so yeah, we just wanna. I'm gonna stop us right here because I don't want you to give out too much because you really have a book.
A lot
You
of
have
stuff.
a movie, I believe. You have a lot. And I think that's through your transparency and being real about your stuff. People could trust you with their kids, with their pain. Because even if you don't want to talk about it with your child, and even if you don't accept it, don't punish that child.
Right.
So now you have somebody here that's willing to go through that process, at least the emotional part of it, to be that safe haven. So we want y'all to take this section right here and really sit with yourself
Yeah.
and figure out why you can't love your children through their struggle or through their choices. So that's what we want to leave y'all with. That's the homework. If you're dealing with a child that dare to be different, then you dare to think different.
Right.
So that's what we want to leave y'all with
You said
today.
it.
That's what we want to leave y'all with today. This is China. Give them your Instagram. Tell them.
My Instagram is China vs. Kenila, and that's really all I'm on.
And you got an email.
Oh, and my email is Kenila Royalty. My first name KEENIYLA Royalty ROYALTY 87 at iCloud.com. But I go by China.
That's a lot. So anyway, if you want to reach her, you can reach her through me. But really, really, my prayer is that you guys stop putting your mouth on stuff you don't understand, for one. For two, stop using the Bible to condemn people. And for 3, learn how to love yourself so you can love others.
Somebody else.
And for 4, please allow your children to have an outlet so they can maintain healthy relationships and they don't have to be traumatized and being victimized because they can't come to you. On that night, note, you can reach me at Believe Radio Nina C at gmail.com, Nina Carter on Facebook, Nina underscore Bonafide on Instagram. Thank y'all for joining in.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate y'all. Have a great evening.
Have a good one.